Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Practice in the dome, again, get out amongst our fan base. Good to, just feel the environment in here, and we got some new players too, so that was pretty cool. I think you guys might get a chance to go see the new locker room after this is all said and done. It's outstanding, man. It's great to have the type of ownership that we have that gives us, everything we need to be successful. So appreciate Mrs. Benson and Dennis Lauscha, all the administration for making that happen.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers alongside John DeShazier. We're sitting in the Caesars Superdome. Open practice just ended. Well, actually, it didn't just end. It ended probably an hour and a half ago, and there are still fans in here and still players walking around signing autographs. Demario Davis, Paulson Adebo, Jamal Williams. It looks like Taliese Fuaga's still out here. So
Wolverine. What's up, big dog?
It's been a lot of fun being at these open practices this week. JD, it's been a while since the team was back in New Orleans, but I think that it was needed to get back here. The energy from the fans is helpful, and it just kind of tells you that training camp's wrapping up.
Yeah, the crowd is thirsty for its team, and I understand the team went to California for reasons and had great practices there, and the weather was conducive to having great practices, crisp practices, but when this team got back home, this team belongs to New Orleans, and the fans showed up and really kind of gave them a little bit of love. Obviously not a full house. You don't want to open up the entire Superdome, but enough to where these players understood that they were appreciated and loved and wanted to be back here in New Orleans. These folks want to see them, and they can't wait to see them on Sunday.
We had a big question mark coming into training camp, and I think it is still a question mark as we're wrapping up training camp, and it is the offensive line. We have seen a lot of different players rotating in with the first team. It has been Trevor Penning and Oli Udoh on the right side, and then at left guard, Lucas Patrick and Landon Young has been coming in getting first team reps there. Coach Allen has said that nobody has stepped up and really taken that position. What is it going to take?
That's a really good question. There are three solid positions on the offensive line. Tali Fuaga at left tackle. You got Eric McCoy at center. You got Cesar Ruiz at right guard. The other two positions are up for grabs. Patrick at left guard and Trevor Penning at right tackle, and neither has really grasped and held on to that position. Now, the caveat is no one behind them has really taken it either. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Coach Allen is ecstatic about the situation. You can't be ecstatic about it because your line needs to be solid and you have to feel pretty good about it. So I don't want to say it's by default that those two positions might go to Patrick and Penning, because obviously they've had to go out and perform, but neither has just really gone out and grabbed the bull by the horn, so to speak, and taken those positions. And the problem with that is you're mixing and matching a lot. You have to do it on the offensive line. Guys get hurt, but you want to build that cohesion, and you're not able to get it completely, I don't think, when you're not able to get those guys on the field as much as you want. You want that number one offensive line to be taking all its reps together. I understand you swap out some guys from time to time, but you want them to be taking as many reps as possible together, especially considering three of those guys are brand new. Fuaga, who looks like a keeper at left tackle, but he's brand new. Trevor Penning is brand new at right tackle. He's never played the position in the NFL before. And Lucas Patrick at left guard has not started at that position for the Saints. So those are positions where you feel good about Fuaga, but the other two you don't feel great about. You feel pretty good, but not great about. And that's something you don't want to be leaving training camp with, that feeling. You want to have that solidified in your gut that these are my five best guys. We're going to go with it, but we're still looking to see if Landon Young might be able to work his way in. We're still looking to see if Shane Lemieux might be able to work. Yeah. I mean, we're looking to see who can take those positions, and so there's still time, but that's not necessarily a good thing because you do still have time for somebody to step in, but you'd like for it to be locked up by now.
Yeah. It's interesting because Coach Allen did say, though, he felt like the run game really took a step forward this week, which you have to have your offensive line play solid. The blocks have to be there in order to establish that ground game. Alvin Kamara's returned to the field this week. We're seeing a little bit more from Jordan Mims. How do you think the running offense is going to be, and how important is it going to be to the new offensive scheme?
I think we got a good glimpse of it in the last preseason game where they were able to run the football. I think they ran it about 38 times, and you want to get those reps in. You want to get the numbers up, and I think we saw a good indication of that in the last preseason game. Now, they're going to need that because you can't just rely on the passing game, and the running game for the Saints has been fairly pedestrian the last 2-3 years, where teams have been able to key on Alvin Kamara. They've been able to surround him. They've been able to just gang tackle him and those kinds of things. You want to be able to have a successful running game because you can't just depend on Derek Carr to drop back for 40, 45 times a game. That's not a feasible way to win in the NFL. So hopefully they've been able to get it together and get it rectified. A lot of it, they believe, is the scheme. And so they've installed basically an entire run scheme. And it seems to have been effective against the Saints in practice and in the preseason games. Is it going to be effective in the regular season games? That's what they have to be able to find out. But I think they feel like they're on a pretty good track. They've got a good combination of running backs with Alvin Kamara, with Jamal Williams, with Jordan Mims. It looks like they'll have some guys there who are able to give you different variations of the run game. And so you have somebody there that can give you everything you need. And, by the way, Taysom Hill can also play running back for this team too. So I think they've got something there. But again, it's going to boil down to the offensive line. Can that offensive line block sufficiently? It looks like they can. It looks like they have in practice, and they have in the preseason games. Can they carry that over to the regular season?
Seen something to watch for sure. It's been fun to see tight end Juwan Johnson back on the field this week. In practice on Friday, he was used a lot. I know they're saying they're going to ramp him back up and bring him back into the offense, but it seems like he's going to be a big component of what they want to do.
This offense was made for him. You see George Kittle in San Francisco, and you imagine what Juwan Johnson can do in this kind of an offense. This offense was made for him. So him getting back on the field was paramount for this team. They needed to get him back out on the field at tight end because he can do things the other tight ends cannot do. And I think we will see that. Look, I know he wanted to get back out there because he's seen this offense and he's seen what other players have done at that position. And so you have to be basically frothing at the mouth for the opportunity to get out there and put up those numbers. I think this can be the year for him in this kind of an offense because he's a guy who's basically an extra receiver who's playing tight end. You want him in those situations one-on-one with linebackers and safeties because you feel like those are wins for the Saints. So getting him back on the field, huge for the Saints.
It's been great watching him. He had a touchdown today from Spencer Rattler that was like a 12-yard perfect ball to the corner. Just a few minutes ago, Paulson Adebo was running sprints with some kids. He was at a race, and he gave them a 10-yard head start, which I don't think was fair. He still beat them. I don't think that was enough to give them. I mean, you got to give him more.
Well, look here. He doesn't need to give him more because he's coming off an injury. So you don't want him to be injured. And obviously doing that kind of thing tells me that he's back 100%. And the Saints need him. They need him at 100%. They need Marshawn Lattimore back on the field. They have Alante Taylor. They need Kool-Aid McKinstry back on the field. They have 4 really strong corners they feel good about, but they're only as good as being on the field. So that availability has to be there. So Paulson Adebo is back. I think Marshawn Lattimore will be back for the regular season opener, knock wood. Kool-Aid McKinstry is supposed to be back for the opener, knock wood. And Alante Taylor has made it through the entire training camp. So they feel pretty good at those positions. But Paulson Adebo, as long as he's healthy, give the kids as much space as you want to, give them as big a lead as you want to. Don't strain yourself trying to outrun them now.
Yeah, that makes sense. He was out here actually walking on his hands, like doing a walking handstand as well. So just kind of showing off his athleticism, I think. We are inside the Superdome. It looks great. They have done the renovations. The fans will get a look at it on Sunday when the Titans are here. Going into this last preseason game, the Titans have said they're going to play some of their starters for maybe 1 or 2 series. How do you think the Saints are going to handle things? What do they need to see from some different position groups on the team?
I think 3 of the offensive linemen, the 3 guys in question, I think they need to play. Mm-hmm. I don't think Ruiz and Eric McCoy need to play that much, but I think the other 3 positions need to play. I don't necessarily know that Chris Olave needs to play, But Bub Means and A.T. Perry, if he's healthy, those guys need to play at receiver. I think Juwan Johnson probably needs to play. He hadn't played for the majority of this training camp and preseason. He's been injured. He hadn't done anything, so I think he could use a couple of snaps. I don't necessarily know that Pete Werner and DeMario Davis will play at linebacker. They hadn't practiced much and they hadn't played at all, but they know the system. So you can trust them to understand what it is they need to do. I don't think Paulson Adebo needs to play. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore doesn't need to play. But a lot of guys need to get out there, get some extra reps. Every rep that Trevor Penning and Tali Fuaga get will be valuable. They need to play. Even in the preseason finale, they need to play. I don't know if they will, but they need to play. But a lot of guys on offense, I don't think necessarily need to be out there. Derek Carr doesn't need to be out there. I think he knows this offense enough. He led him to a touchdown last week. I think he feels pretty comfortable with what he's doing. I think the staff probably feels pretty comfortable with what he's doing too. If he's out there for a series, I'd be not necessarily shocked, but a little bit surprised because you still have those backup quarterbacks who need as many reps as they can get. But I don't think necessarily that the Saints will have a lot of starters out there, especially on defense. Look, Tyrann Matthews played both preseason games. The only practices he's missed was vet days. So he doesn't need to play at all. Willie Gay, if Willie Gay isn't playing, it wouldn't bother me at all. He's taking a lot of snaps in this preseason and training camp. So, but there are some guys who do. Peyton Turner, defensive end, I think he needs to be on the field a little bit. So there are some guys who need to be out there and get some reps in. Maybe Chase Young, I don't know, because Chase Young has kind of shown himself this preseason. He probably doesn't need to be at that defensive end. I just kind of personally want to see him dominate somebody. But I think a lot of the starters, I don't think they'll probably be out there on Sunday. We'll see how it goes, but I don't think they need to be out there.
You mentioned A.T. Perry. He missed Friday's practice for a personal reason. Does seem like he's okay injury-wise. Other than that, I mean, it seems like the team's getting pretty healthy. We're trending in the right direction. We got this last preseason game, and then we're going to be right here into the regular season. Cuts are going to be made by Tuesday, 3 o'clock Central, so you'll have an idea of the initial 53 because every other team is going to be releasing people as well, and it might be a free-for-all for kind of filling out your practice squad. You might pick up and release some people over the next couple of weeks anyways. You never know what could happen, who's out there, and who you might want to get on your side. As I mentioned, the Caesars Superdome has undergone some renovations, so make sure you check your app if you're coming to the game on Sunday and know where you need to enter, because there are specific places that will make it much easier if you go in a certain gate to get to your seat. But JD, it's been fun. Players said that they really enjoyed having camp out in Irvine, that they felt like it helped develop more chemistry, relationships, the bond. It seems like the way they've done things this year. I always love being here in New Orleans, and because of the facility renovations, it was something they had to do, but I think we will see some benefits from it.
I think so. I mean, they got in a lot of good work that they probably couldn't have gotten in New Orleans, because when you're talking about 110, 115 degree heat index, guys are just thinking about survival. They're just trying to finish practice. They're trying not to pass out. They're trying to stay hydrated, as opposed to being in California and the weather's better and those issues aren't present, because now guys can focus on the work as opposed to just focusing on being able to stand and finish practice. So I think from that standpoint, you get great benefits. You get much more quality work as opposed to simply survival. And look, I love New Orleans. I wanted to be here the entire training camp, folks, because trust me, I like being home. But I get it. You need to be able to get work in, quality work, and it's hard to do that in New Orleans. It's really difficult to do that. So the team going to California, it was by necessity. I can see it happening again, especially if this team is successful. Hopefully we'll be back home and we won't have to worry about that. But look, I completely understand it.
Yeah. Pete Werner said it was the toughest training camp that he's been through just because of that, the tempo, the reps they were able to get in, the intensity. But we'll see how it plays out for the regular season. It starts September 8th for the Saints against the Panthers, so be here before we know it. But thank you so much, JD. If you come to the game on Sunday, check that app. It is a 1 o'clock kick, and we'll see you there.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.